associated with it. Okay. Now, the next calendar which I'm going to talk about is called project calendar. This is something which I didn't really focus on in my earlier slides. So please note, project calendar is one of the base calendars. I'm repeating, it is one of the base calendars that will be used by project for scheduling your activities without resources and task calendar attached. Now, I'll give you a small example for it. So if you are new to project 2013 or even project 2010, I am sure that you are missing a very new feature called as task mode in project 2010 here. So this is a new column that has been added from project 2010. So please note there are two ways by which you can schedule a task. One is called as manually scheduled, another is called auto scheduled. When I say manually scheduled, project is not going to use any calendars, it is not going to respect dependencies. So more often it is being used only for preparing a high-level plan where you don't have any concrete details. So I'll give you a small example for it. I just say manually scheduled, and let me give a task name. Let's say prepare and review. So by default, any task which you enter in project, they are always manually scheduled, which means the dates, the duration will not be estimated by Microsoft Project. So naturally, you can give your own dates what you want. So I can say this will start on this date, but finish, need to talk to Bob. So you can always give some meta description. So project is not going to ask you anything because it's more for high-level planning. So rather than doing these things in Excel, you can very much do it in Microsoft Project. Now, once you have reached a stage where you have more detailed information about your project, like your resources, the dependencies between your activities, the priority levels, then it's the right time to change the task mode from manual to automatic. So the moment you change your task to automatic, you will observe the duration, the dates are automatically set in project. So let me do it for review also. You can find that the dates are automatically set. So the first observation you make is, how did project assume that 26 is when prepare and review will start? Remember, the start date of the first activity in the project is driven by the project start date. To set your project start date, you go to project, project information. Go to project, project information. You can find that this is the place where you need to configure your project start date. Let's assume that the project is going to start on 2nd of June. So I'm going to select 2nd of June here. And you can find all my activities are scheduled on 2nd of June. Okay. So I'm going to set the duration here. Let's say 3 days and 5 days. So based on how long the task takes to complete, you will find the finish date of the task are also getting adjusted. On the other side, there is a bar that is being drawn depending on when the task starts and when the task finishes. Right? So these are purely fundamentals of project, okay, which I'm just trying to recap here. So let's say only after preparing a document, you can review a document. So a very common way is you would like to change the dates here. So I would recommend don't change the dates because changing dates will only put constraints. It will not create any dependencies between your tasks. So it's quite easy to set the dependencies. So if I want to say after prepare, you would like to do the review, select these two tasks, one after the other. Okay. Go to the task ribbon. On the schedule group, you have a command called link task. You can observe that there is a command available called link task here. So the moment I click on link, it assumes that only after the first activity finishes, the second activity can start. Which means if my first activity is getting delayed by another 2 days, my second activity will also start 2 days later. And the finish to start dependency is more often shown in an arrow on the other side, where the finish of the first task is driving the start of the next activity. Okay. So these are purely fundamentals of how scheduling is done. And please note, these dates will be recalculated only if it is auto-scheduled. In case if it was manually scheduled, how good the dates are, how good the duration is. So the moment I change my the driving activities duration, let's say to 2 days, you will find your review will not get adjusted because this is manually scheduled. So manual will not respect anything. Okay, it just goes by what you entered last. Okay, fine. Now let's first understand how does project schedule these activities. What calendar does it use for this? To understand how calendars are used or what is driving these activities, you can make use of a feature called Task Inspector. There is a feature called Task Inspector. In project 2010, it was called as Task Drivers, whereas here it is called as Task Inspector. So you go to the Task ribbon, okay, and just select the task which you want to inspect. So I'm selecting Prepare. On the task group, you have a command called Inspect. So just pull this drop down and use the first command called Inspect. Okay, so the moment I say Inspect, you are able to find a new window opens on the left. So for the Prepare activity, it says what is controlling or affecting the current activity. So the project start date is affecting the first activity. Now let's see what the second activity is, review. It says the review activity, the factors affecting it are, it is auto scheduled. So the start date is this, the finish date is this. This activity start date is driven by two factors. One is its predecessors, which is Prepare, and another one is a calendar called project calendar called Standard. You might wonder, we didn't say project calendar is standard. Where did project pick this from? So whenever a task is added to a project will always assume these tasks by default should be scheduled as per the project calendar. So how do I set my project calendar now? So you go to the same project information. You have a calendar drop-down available. This calendar is what I call as the project calendar. Okay. So I'm just going to say the project calendar for my project is Chennai, which means all my tasks by default should be scheduled as per Chennai. Now let me say OK. Now you are able to see some slight difference in the date calculation, and now the calendars have changed. It says the project calendar now becomes Chennai here. Okay. So this is how the project calendar is affecting your schedule. So, but remember, project calendar is the one that is used only if you don't have any resource assigned to this task, or if this task is not having any task calendar assigned to it. Now this gets back to our old question. How do I create my resource calendar? How do I say this task should be done only on specific working days? How can that be done? Okay. So you don't create a resource calendar in Microsoft Project. Every time you add a resource, a team member in Microsoft Project, your resource calendar is getting automatically created and assigned to that particular resource. So let me first show you how to add resource information in Microsoft Project. So I'm closing this Task Inspector now. So I'm moving to a different view called Resource Sheet. So let me right-click the left sidebar. You can see there are a variety of views available. I'm changing my view to Resource Sheet. Okay, I'm changing my view to Resource Sheet. So for the purpose of discussion, I'm going to restrict myself only to work resources who are people in your project. Let's say there are two resources in my project. One is Sai, another one is Arun. So both of them are work resources because we are going to spend effort for completing our job. So project always assumes that these two resources are working as per the Chennai calendar. But you can always say that one resource is working as per a different base calendar year. So, for example, I want to say Arun is working in Mumbai, okay? He is having a different calendar there. So if you want to create a new base calendar, I hope you remember where to click what. So use the same project change working time command. Create a new calendar. Okay, I'm going to say create a new base calendar called Mumbai. Okay, so please note I'm creating a Mumbai base calendar where the working time is from Monday to Friday, and I'm just going to make it simple from 9 to 1 and 2 to 6. Okay, so even Saturdays are working for Mumbai. So that's what I'm going to assume. So I want to tell my project that Sai is based out of Chennai, so his base calendar is going to be Chennai. Whereas Arun is based out of Mumbai, so I want his working time to be automatically be copied from the Mumbai base calendar. So I'm going to select the Mumbai on the base calendar drop-down. So what right now I have done, I have just linked the resource calendar to the base calendar. I have not customized or adjusted the working time of my resource calendars. Okay. So I'll just go a few slides earlier. Just hold on. Yeah. So I hope you remember this was a slide that we were talking about the resource calendar on the base calendar. So what right now I have done is I have added two resources. One is Sai, who is working out of Chennai. Another is Arun, who is working out of the Mumbai calendar. So I have just linked the resource calendar to the base calendar right now. So I'm moving back to my project. So you might want to say the working time or the holidays of Sai is quite different from Arun or anyone who works in Chennai. How to customize it? If you want to customize the working time of your resource, just select the name of the resource from the resource sheet and use this button called change working time. The moment you do it, you find the calendar for that selected resource is displayed, and that working time is based out of Chennai, which is what you saw in the base calendar drop-down. So you can find that the working time of Sai would be based on it. So any holidays I have configured in Chennai will automatically be applied for Sai. So you can find for 13th of June has been set up a non-working day for Sai because it has been set up a holiday in the Chennai calendar. So if this specific team member wants to have his own working time for holidays, again, you can go back to work weeks and exceptions to configure it. Let's say he was planning to have a long weekend and he wants to make 16th of June also as a holiday for him because he wants to have a vacation there. So I will just say vacation 16th. So since this exception is added at a resource level, you find 16th is a non-working day, and based on the exception vacation of calendar Sai. But if you look at 15th, it is based on the default work week of Chennai, and 13th is based on the Chennai calendar only. So you can always override the resource specific working times and their holidays through the resource calendar here. Okay. So just a quick recap, we talked about how to add resources, how to link a resource calendar to one of the base calendars, and how to customize the work weeks and the exceptions of that specific resource. Now I'm just moving back to my Gantt chart. Now I'm going to assign the resource to an activity. Okay, so let's take the prepare activity now. I'm going to assign it to, let's say, Arun. Okay, and I'm going to assign, let's say, review to Sai. Okay, so you find that the prepare right now is 5 days. I'm just going to extend it to 6 days now. So you can see Arun is able to do this 6 days work from Monday to Saturday. Okay, but instead of Arun working on it, if I have selected Sai here, just observe how the dates changes. Now you find the work is scheduled 5 days in the first week, Monday to Friday, and the remaining 1 day is moved to the next week Monday, right? So next week it has been scheduled. So this is an example to show you that based on the resource calendar only, the task is being scheduled. So just another proof, if you go to the task inspector, here, so when I select prepare, it clearly now tells you that this task dates are driven by the project start date and the resource calendar file. For review, it says it is driven by its predecessor and the resource calendar file. So the moment I change my resource name, so the impact is quite immediate, right? So I would request you, instead of you trying to calculate how these dates are calculated, rather use this inspect option to know which calendar is being used, whether it is a project calendar used for scheduling this task or whether it is a resource calendar for scheduling this particular task. So this is a very important feature, because if you want to do optimization or if you want this task to be completed earlier, you need to know what is controlling this task so that you can take action on those factors alone. Now, the next one is you would like to schedule an activity on a particular days only. For example, though review is a 5-day activity, I want this review to be done only on Saturdays. I'm repeating it. I want the reviews to be done only on Saturdays, not on the normal weekdays. So by default, based on Arun's calendar only, this task is being scheduled. That is Tuesday to Saturday. But we have a restriction here that this task can be done only on specific days. So how do we handle this? So we move on to the next type of calendar called as task calendar. Though we say task calendar, in other words, it is only a base calendar in Microsoft Project. So the steps are quite same. You go to the project, you click on the change working time, you create a calendar the same old way, but the name of the calendar I'm going to give is more specific to a task. For example, weekend work. Okay, I'm going to give the calendar name as weekend work so that I can apply this for as many number of tasks I want. So I've created a weekend work base calendar, and I want to say only Saturdays are working days on this calendar. The remaining days are non-working days. So I hope we all know how to change the working time. You go to the work weeks, you go to the default, I'll say Monday to Friday. Okay, so I'll just mark Saturday as a working day first. So let's say 9 to 1, 2 to 6. Okay, and Sunday to Friday is a non-working day, which means in this calendar you find only Saturdays are working, the remaining days are all non-working. Okay, so I've created a weekend calendar now. Now I need to tell my project that this review task can be done. Okay, so the review task can be done only as per the weekend work calendar. So how do I do that? So I'll save this calendar. Okay, so let me open this task, the review activity. On the advanced tab of this task, you have a calendar drop-down available. By default, for all tasks, task calendars will not be set. So it is none. Here I can say, this task should be done as per the weekend calendar. Okay, I'll come back to this checkbox later. So I'll say OK now. So first you are able to observe that. So this review activity is now done only on Saturdays. Though it gives you 5 days, 5 days is not the difference between start and finish. It just tells you how many working days is this task being done. So 5 working days, it starts at 14th of June and it goes till 12th of July, right? So you can find now the calendar that has been applied on the left side in the task inspector is the weekend work calendar. So I'll give you some more details about these calendars which you might want to understand. So though I said Sai is working on this task for 6 days, you would like to know how the hours have been divided across the 6 days. So this requires that you need to split your screen. So I will just right click. I'll use the show split option. Okay. And on the bottom you find a task form view being displayed. So the task form gives you details about the currently selected task on the top, like the task name, its duration, its start date, finish date, and any resources. So I'm not concentrating on this effort driven and task type because it's outside the calendars what we are discussing on. So you might want to change the task form view from the bottom and change it to task usage and change the view to task usage here. Let's see what we have. Okay, so to make it easier for you to read, so I hope it's much easier for you. Now you can find for the prepare activity, it is a 6 days activity which starts from Monday, it completes on next Monday, 5 days and 1 day, and the 8 hours is scheduled every day here. But if you look at review, okay, this task is done as per the task calendar. You can find there's a calendar icon. This task is done as per the task calendar, weekend calendar. So though this task is 5 days, this task is not starting from Tuesday itself. It is scheduled only on Saturdays. So you can only find Saturdays are working and the remaining days are grayed out. Okay. So you can find that the 5 Saturdays are used for scheduling this particular task. The good news is the resource who was assigned to this task is Arun. So Arun is working even on Saturdays because he is working as per the Mumbai calendar. So as per Mumbai, you know that the working days are from Monday to Saturday. And as per the task calendar, the task should be done only on the Saturday. So the project finds a common working time between Arun and the task calendar and schedules this task. But what if I have assigned Sai to this activity? We all know this resource is not working on Saturdays, right? So let me select it and see the result. You can see there is an alert that is now being displayed on your screen. It says not enough common working time, and it gives you 2 different options. It says either change the task calendar of that particular resource or use this option called scheduling ignores resource calendar. Okay, so you either change the resource calendar to say that Sai is working on those specific Saturdays so that we find a common working time. Otherwise, you can tell project that the resource calendar needs to be ignored. But if you don't do either of these 2 options, you will still find the work is still scheduled only on Saturdays. Okay, but this might look quite unrealistic for you. So you can just open the task, okay, and you can use this command called scheduling ignores the resource calendar. Now the task will be scheduled only as per the task calendar, which is the weekend calendar here. But since the resource is not available on Saturdays, you will find that there is a red color stickman that will appear, indicating that that resource is over allocated on those days. Because on those days, he is available only for 0 hours, but you have given him 8 hours of work. Okay? So it is a very quite interesting topic, as you can see, right? Calendars is more about working days and non-working days only. But it finally boils down to what calendars that operate at what level, because that's going to finally affect how these dates are being scheduled. So I'm moving back to my slides. So this is what we're talking about, how to set your project calendars. And you can see which factors are influencing the date calculation by using the inspect option available. So depending on whether you have a task calendar, a resource calendar, or project calendar, the task inspector will give you detailed information about it. Okay? And finally, You would like to know how to rename a base calendar what you created, or how to share your calendars across multiple files. Now let's take this example. We have spent time for creating a Chennai calendar and a Mumbai calendar, right? You might want to say that I want to share the Chennai calendar to my colleague, but his plan is quite different from mine. How do you do it? So remember, though calendars are part of every schedule, you can always share it. How do you share it? You just select the file,